Connor O'Gara unable to join us today from Saturday Down South, but we have got a great backup and one of my favorite ones to talk to. That's Alyssa Orange from the Pig Trail Nation. Alyssa, happy post-Christmas and hope you're doing well today, my friend.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, doing pretty good. Getting ready to gear up and hit the road to Houston. So packing. That's what I'm doing right now.
So when are you heading down there? Here in the next day or two?
Sure. Yeah, well, we're actually going to leave tonight, drive to Dallas, and then drive the rest of the way tomorrow. So
heck yeah. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun atmosphere down there. Let's jump right into football since we bring it up. And obviously, with the biggest news that we got over the weekend, the biggest Christmas presents we got, Grant Morgan, Myron Cunningham, Ty Clary, and now Devion Warren all coming back for this Razorback football team next season. What does this say, though? Because a lot of our texters this morning, I'm sure you'll agree, this is a huge kudos to Sam Pittman because with last year, seemed like a lot of players were ready to get out. Now it almost seems like it's a flip-flop. Players are wanting to stay here in this program, and you got 4 really key pieces heading into next season coming back.
Yeah, I think it's huge. And you said that, a lot of guys weren't ready to come back, didn't want to come back, went ahead and left last year. But I think that the guys that are coming back, like Grant Morgan and Myron Cunningham, Ty Clary, Devion Warren, they got a little taste of what this program can be, what this program can do. And you give them another opportunity to come back, and they're obviously going to take it. And so I commend them, obviously, for putting this team first and this program first and wanting to still be a part of it. You look at Sam Pittman in recruiting, and everyone wants to talk about the high school recruits or the JUCO guys coming in, but being able to get these guys to come back is just as big, if not bigger, of a recruiting job by Sam Pittman and this staff than any of the guys that they're going to sign in this 2021 class.
Is Grant Morgan the biggest piece coming back, or do you think it's fair to look at the offensive line with Myron Cunningham and Ty Clary coming back?
That's hard. Obviously, those two are great, and their leadership and experience are going to be good on the offensive line. But I'm sorry, Grant Morgan is hands down the best return that you could have on this team this year, maybe outside of Felipe Franks, which I think all of us know he's probably going to move on. But you look at the depth that they don't have at linebacker and just what Grant Morgan's been able to do. You then have Bumper Poole, who will be a senior also next year. A lot of these younger guys like Hayden Henry, who are going to be a year older. I think it's just really big for the defense to keep their leaders on the field, and Grant Morgan is definitely one of those.
We've heard Sam Pittman talk about it last week. They said there's going to be 3 to 4 players that's probably going to be coming back, and now we've heard the 4th one, obviously, with Devion Warren earlier this morning. Do you think in your mind that there could be any other guys that could come back next season? And you mentioned Felipe Franks. I think it's a long shot that he could, but you never know. Is there a player out there that you would like to see return next year in a Razorback uniform?
Well, yeah, I think that answers Felipe Franks, but I think that would be everyone's answer.
Exactly.
So I don't think it's going to happen. But no, I think if you look at the seniors, the one that maybe still is out there that hasn't made a decision publicly yet would be Blake Kearn, the tight end, former walk-on out of Lamar. And he's a guy who obviously had his first touchdown catch against Tennessee of his career. This year, he's been able to be really kind of the go-to guy for Felipe Franks. And we've seen that this year. So could Blake Kearn come back? Because, again, that tight end room is another area where they don't have a whole lot of depth. Hudson Henry still kind of coming along a little bit. He might be a guy that could come back and be the 5th one. But outside of him, I don't really see anybody else coming back. I'd like to see Blake Kearn come back. I think that'd be fun. I think that'd be a great story. So we're going to have to wait and see.
And he's played really well at times this season. I mean, like we said, we thought it was going to be like a Hudson Henry and different things. Blake Kearn has played really well under this system and made a lot of big plays when this team needed it in crucial moments.
Yeah, I talked to his mom, and I got to talk to her before senior day, and she really kind of told me that, he was a walk-on coming from Lamar, got up to Arkansas, and that's like a completely different ball game when you're going to Fayetteville in a college town from a small town like Lamar, even for them just traveling up to the game and the amount of people. And it took him a little bit to just kind of get accustomed to college football and adjust a little bit, and they commended Barry Lunny a lot on just his adjustment. Coming up here and waiting his turn and being patient. I mean, you're behind guys like Jeremy Sprinkle and, Hunter Henry had just left. And you've got all of these, C.J. O'Grady. You've got tight ends who are just nationally accredited. and getting a lot of attention. And I commend Blake Kearn for kind of just waiting in the wing, putting in the work on special teams, and now you're seeing him get a chance. So I'd love to see him continue to do so.
And when you look forward to this Texas Bowl matchup, and obviously going to be talking about it all week, especially here with ESPN Arkansas and you guys with the Pig Trail Nation, this is going to be a tough matchup. And not necessarily that, like, TCU is beatable. I mean, because they are. But you know as well as I do, Gary Patterson's always going to bring a salty defense in. And Max Dugan, if you haven't seen this guy play, he is a baller for this team. And Arkansas is going to have their hands full, particularly with trying to break this defense and slowing down this TCU offense.
Yeah, absolutely. The one TCU game that I've watched this year is when they played Oklahoma State and beat them at TCU. And that's saying a lot for an Oklahoma State team that was pretty good this year. And had they not tripped up maybe against TCU and taken care of business at Oklahoma, they could have been a college football playoff team. So, they're a really good team. Obviously, it's a team Arkansas has played semi-recently where they went down there and they won in overtime, and then TCU came up to Fayetteville and beat them. So it's a matchup we've seen before in recent history. And, I do bowl picks with my family, right, on ESPN and get to pick the bowl games. And I'm pretty sure that, like, the percentage of TCU and Arkansas picks, it was like 85% had picked TCU to win this game, and only 15% had picked Arkansas to win this game. So it doesn't look like, they give you that percentage of what people have picked. And so clearly not a lot of people believe that Arkansas can come in and beat TCU. I don't know how much people actually know about either program, but that's just what the selections were like on ESPN. So, Arkansas the underdog, but they've been the underdog all year, and we've seen what happened. So don't count them out at all.
But this team should be fully healthy, barring some COVID issues that may arise. I'm not saying there is any, but you never know with what's been happening with 2020. Aside from that, what needs to happen to get this team a W and to move into the offseason to kind of get that bad taste of the Alabama loss out of their mouth? What needs to happen to get a TCU victory?
Hey, you know what I tell you? It's not even just that Alabama loss. It's that Missouri loss. And this defense has to kind of put both of those away, lock them up, and don't look at them again. This defense really kind of needs to redeem themselves from the last two outings. And it's hard to fault them against Alabama, right? So not a lot of fault there. Still held them to under the average yards that they were putting up offensively. But back to that Missouri game where they could have won, should have won, and the defense just totally fell apart. They have to get back to being the defense that we saw, against Ole Miss, against Tennessee, against Mississippi State earlier in the year, even against Georgia in that first part of that game. I'd like to see the defense play that way. And then obviously offensively, it's going to be interesting. Felipe Franks will be there. Hopefully he says he feels great and healthy to play. We'll see him. We might see more KJ Jefferson mixed in there a little bit, depending on what happens. But we said this all year, Matt, you got to sustain drives with this Arkansas offense. Yes. You can't really get out to a slow start. You got to be able to sustain drives. And so it kind of starts both ways, where Arkansas's got to be able to hold on to the ball and score points. I know that sounds obvious, but, you've looked back on a lot of opportunities that Arkansas has had and drives have stalled because they've either gotten penalties that hurt themselves or they haven't been able to execute offensively. And on top of that, Mike Irwin and I have been watching these games back in studio, and then every time they score, if they score quick, Mike goes, yes, but dang it, they scored too fast. And that kind of is a problem. You might want to slow it down, use up some clock, give your defense a little bit of a rest against this TCU offense, and maybe not score so fast, which is kind of something funny to say.
It's almost we've had a lot of people with that remark saying, like, hey, obviously this team needs to go fast and go, but you bring up a good point, and that's kind of what killed you against LSU. When you start looking at all these losses, all these different things, which are stuff that this team can control, but this team will score so fast that it shoots themselves in the foot a little bit. But I'm curious, like, how does a team that's so built to go fast, go no huddle, how can they go about trying to slow it down? Because it seems like, Alyssa, the times that they do slow down, that's when they start making the mistakes with the turnovers and penalties and different things like that. So it's a fine line that this team has to walk if we want to try to go slow.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, absolutely, because when you look at the times Arkansas has made big plays, has scored, quickly, it's because it's been a 52-yard touchdown pass to Mike Woods or 62-yard touchdown pass to Traylon Burks, or it's some big play that has eaten up a big part of that drive. And that's why it's so quick. You know, you can still be quick and run the clock out by running the football. And if they can sustain a good running game, in my opinion, with Traylon Smith, then I think, you know, you put TJ Hammonds back there as well. Maybe you put Traylon Burks back there as a little bit of a wildcat, or obviously he's a running threat as well. That's ways that you can drain clock time, but still continue to go fast a little bit. But I know that Kendall Briles, he wants to go fast and go up tempo, no huddle. But this is still an offense in Arkansas that's not super, super, super fast.
Right.
Just a lot of the ways that they've been able to score is those big chunk yard touchdowns. So obviously people love those. I'm not saying don't do that. But try to, you know, get 10 yards, 7 yards, 10 yards, 7 yards. You don't have to, I mean, do it if you'd have to, but you know, you don't want to go and have a 65-yard bomb touchdown every single time.
Right.
Give the ball right back to TCU. That'll be a shootout, and then Arkansas is going to have to keep up.
Couple more minutes here with Alyssa Orange of the Pig Trail Nation. Want to get your thoughts real quick on basketball, but before I get there, what's your prediction for Saturday with the Texas Bowl? Or Thursday, excuse me. I'm used to saying Saturday.
Ooh.
What's your prediction?
Right, yeah. Golly, I haven't even thought about that, so you're going to put me on the spot. You know, I think Arkansas takes care of business. I think this one is going to be fun. Maybe a little bit of a high-scoring game-ish, maybe 38-32 Arkansas.
There you go. I like it. I like that prediction.
Okay.
All right, let's get
You're going to have to remind me that down the road because I'm going to forget by the time they ask me Thursday. You're like, I don't know what I said.
We'll have to share this interview real quick on Twitter once that thing happens. Last thing before we let you go, Arkansas basketball opens up in conference play this week against Auburn,
Wow.
8-0 in the non-conference slate. Do you think this team, as it stands right now, they've won every game they played? Probably some of them should have been by more of a point spread, but nevertheless 8-0. Do you think this team's ready to go for SEC play against Auburn?
I think so. You know, and Mike Irwin and I go back and forth on this because he's like 8 games is 8 games. It doesn't matter with the competition, but I am a little nervous about the fact that, you know, they didn't play a Power 5 team in the non-conference. I get that this was different. They were supposed to play Oklahoma. They didn't even play Tulsa, so it was a little different with COVID. But that's the only thing that would make me nervous is the fact that you're walking into an SEC schedule and you haven't really been tested. Though we've seen them struggle, get off to slow starts, and be able to kind of regroup, regain kind of a little bit of their composure, and then be able to take over and control games. So from the way that I know that Eric Musselman prepares, from the talent we've seen on this team, and the young guys and how they're mixing so well with so many new pieces, no, I'm not nervous. The only thing that makes me nervous is just maybe the strength or lack of schedule in the non-con. But then on the flip side of that, you know, you look at the SEC right now, and it's not super strong either. You've had a lot of these SEC teams struggle, and I don't think I need to point out that Kentucky's 1-6 right now. I think everyone's well aware.
Say that again. Kentucky's 1-6. Is that what you said?
Yeah, 1-6. How about that? I don't think anyone's mad about that, right?
No, there ain't nobody in the state of Arkansas is.
Not at all. So I think that that's the only other side of that coin is, well, the SEC, other teams in the SEC are, you know, struggling a little bit. Arkansas could easily make a run.
You can catch Alyssa Orange weekdays on the Pig Trail Nation. Alyssa, thanks for jumping on with us here on Halftime.
Yeah.
Be safe heading down to Houston, and hopefully when you come back to Arkansas, we'll come back with a victory.
I hope so. They need a trophy in that trophy case.
We do. We need it, Alyssa. You do your part down there while you're there and get that trophy back to Arkansas.
I will do my best.
Thanks, Alyssa.
Thank you.
That's Alyssa Orange from the Pig Trail Nation. Always a fun conversation with her.